You're probably working harder than you were a few years ago. More organized, more efficient, more available. Your calendar fills up faster. Your inbox never really empties. You're doing more things, just not moving very far. And somehow, that doesn't feel like it's turning into much. Not a crisis, not a collapse, just a quiet sense that effort and outcome stopped being close friends. There used to be a simple rule. If you showed up, did the work, stayed reliable, you didn't become rich, but things moved forward. Progress was slow, but visible. You could feel it adding up. It wasn't exciting, but it was predictable. You could plan around it, build a life that assumed steady effort led somewhere. Not fast, not dramatically, just forward. That rule worked long enough to feel permanent. What's strange is that nothing officially changed. You weren't told to stop trying. No memo went out, no announcement. You just noticed that doing more didn't feel like winning anymore. Same effort, different result. And that's the confusing part, because when something breaks, you can point to it. When something fails, there's usually a moment. This didn't feel like either. It felt like confusion, like the math stopped lining up, but no one said why. The problem isn't effort, it's where effort goes now. A lot of systems used to reward consistency, time, reliability, staying put, show up long enough, and eventually something happened. Now those same systems reward something else. Speed, leverage, scalability. Not how hard you work, but how many times your work can work without you. Effort still matters. It just matters after those things, which is new and deeply unintuitive. Most people didn't notice the shift because it didn't arrive as bad news. There was no moment where things suddenly felt broken. Life kept moving. Paychecks still showed up. Work still mattered. It just started doing something strange. Effort stopped stacking the way it used to. You could work harder this year than last year and end up in the same place. Or worse, slightly more tired. Not because you failed, but because effort was no longer the thing being multiplied. What mattered more was how easily your work could be reused, replicated, extended beyond you. That's a different game, and most people were never told they were playing it. Most people didn't notice the shift because it didn't feel like a loss. It felt like friction. You were still working, still showing up, still doing what you were taught. The rewards just started arriving somewhere else. Not to time, not to loyalty, to systems that keep running even when no one's watching. This is why working more hours doesn't feel like progress. Promotions feel random. Raises feel symbolic. You're busy, but oddly stationary. Like walking faster on a moving sidewalk, going the wrong direction. It's why weekends feel shorter. Why stability feels conditional. Why doing fine doesn't feel very reassuring. Nothing dramatic changed. The pressure just became constant. This is why so many people feel busy, but strangely unsettled. You're doing what you're supposed to do, meeting expectations, staying responsible, but the sense of momentum is gone. Not dramatic enough to panic, just persistent enough to wear on you. It shows up as second guessing, as quiet anxiety, as the feeling that you should be further along than you are, even when nothing is technically wrong. That's the cost of a system that keeps moving while asking you to stand still. You didn't do anything wrong. You followed the instructions. They just didn't update the instruction manual. The scoreboard changed. Your points still count, just differently. And that's unsettling, because you can't fix a problem you were never told existed. Hard work didn't stop mattering. It just stopped being enough by itself. And once you see that, a lot of things suddenly make sense. Not because you're behind, but because the rules you learned no longer explain the outcomes you're seeing. Once you notice this, you stop blaming yourself for it. Not because it feels better, but because it finally makes sense. And that clarity changes how you hear every conversation about work, success, and effort. Which is probably why the next question feels unavoidable.